Welcome to The Voiceover with your host, D. Foster III, where we discuss relevant topics that affect the culture with bold, independent commentary. Get ready to be inspired, enlightened, and encouraged.
Welcome to a special Wake Up Global Network's audio, visual podcast, whatever you want to call it. I want to say thank you for joining. I hope you're having a great Sunday with your family. Some of you are at church, whatever you're doing, but I especially appreciate you tuning in to this very special program, this very special recording, this very special time and space. I'm D. Foster III, CEO and President of Wake Up Global Networks International. And of course, we want you to like this, subscribe to this, put a copy of this link into your into your contacts rather, so that you can send it to your friends. It's going to be tremendous. It's going to be great. It's going to be eye-opening. It's not for shock therapy. It's not to persuade you. It's just to, as I always do, bring you information so that you can determine for yourself. To find out more about us, you can go to our website, www.wakeupglobalnetworks.com, www.wakeupglobalnetworks.com, and follow us on all of our social media. Follow me on my personal social media, X and Instagram, DJ Change 111. DJ Change 111. You'll see everything we do, our podcast on Friday, which not intentionally led us into what we're going to talk about, or some of what we're going to talk about today. And then every Sunday morning at 7 a.m. is the Voice of Hope Connection. And it is all taking place right here on WPBMediaNetworks.com. Shout out to owner and operator April J. for giving us a platform for voice. And of course, we have at Wake Up Global Media on our YouTube channel and all of our social media. And like I said, go to our website to get more information on that. Now, I know I'm going to be in a different tone, a different flavor today. If you know my presentation, I'm usually quick. I hit it and I quit it. But today I'm going to try to slow it down because I believe this is so important for you to understand and to share it with other people. Like I said, the whole objective is not some animosity. It's not, I don't have an axe to grind. I'm not trying to be shock therapy for numbers. I'm not trying to be salacious, but I am trying to bring clarity to some of the fallacies that we have been taught, we have grown up in, especially around this season where a lot of people are celebrating Easter, resurrection, whichever one you want to call it. And I want to bring some clarity to that. So like this, subscribe, share, get your favorite drink, relax if you can. If you're home, watch it with your family, have a watch party. If you are part of the replay crew, we want to say thank you. Subscribe to this, share, and absolutely follow. We appreciate it. Again, I'm going to take my time. I'm going to slow walk it so that it makes sense. I want it to make sense. So I've titled this on this day, what many people call resurrection. Some call it Easter, whichever persuasion. Resurrection realities and resurrection fallacies, which means within the scope of celebrating the resurrection, there are some realities that we hold true to, but then there are fallacies that we embrace. And I want to make the distinction. So let me start off by saying resurrection, the time when the world celebrates Jesus raising from the dead after being crucified. You know, there's a whole ceremonial weekend that just took place beginning with Holy Week, Palm Sunday, last Sunday. Some celebrated Jesus' triumphant entry into Jerusalem. And then all week, Holy Week, where he's crucified, where he's led, you know, the Stations of the Cross, right? The Stations of the Cross, where he's led into Pilate's chamber, where he's got a kangaroo trial, where he's led up Golgotha's hill, where he's crucified, where he's buried. I mean, all of that. That's Holy Week. And then the culmination of it is what many are celebrating today is Resurrection Sunday or Easter, whichever one you choose. So that's the background, because I have a mixed audience. So all of my audience is not church eyes. I have people from every persuasion, every denomination, every spiritual belief. So sometimes I have to go into explaining things that people think people should understand. But again, we here at Wake Up have a plethora of people from different backgrounds that join us. So if I sound trivial, give me a break. I'll be back at you, but spare me, because I want to make sure I bring everybody along. So here it is. So resurrection, yes. When we talk about Jesus raising from the dead, Jesus triumphant entry to Jerusalem, you know, that whole Easter week from Palm Sunday to Resurrection Sunday. So it's resurrection, yes. Easter, no. That's a fallacy, because I know we use those, people use those interchangeably. They said it's Easter Sunday, and I'm talking about good Christians using Easter. But what I think when I finish and we discover, if you don't already know, and I don't want to insult anyone's intelligence here, that we will never use the word Easter again when it refers to the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Resurrection is a spiritual event. Easter is a pagan celebration. Let me say that again. Resurrection is a spiritual event, whereas Easter is a pagan celebration. Now, you may ask me, D. Foster 3, how did they become synonymous? How did we exchange and mix up Easter and resurrection? As a matter of fact, growing up as a church baby, I just started hearing resurrection about 15 or 20 years ago, because growing up, it was always Easter Sunday, Easter Sunday. So thank God we are being enlightened. The church is changing, but there's still a lot of fallacy in this celebration or in this time of year. So resurrection, yes, it is a spiritual event, and we'll talk about the when later. But Easter is very much paganism. And you say, well, how did they, which is a good question, how did they become synonymous? One meaning the same thing, Easter meaning resurrection, and resurrection meaning Easter, which is the same thing. One is spiritual, and the other one is a reality of the worship of the God of fertility, right? So Easter is when Easter, and when it is celebrated, has to do with the spring equinox. You'll find out that a lot of the holidays that we celebrate, and you need to go back and look at my podcast from Friday called A Christian Nation, or Christians in a Nation, where I talk about how we have more paganism in this country than we do spiritual practices on a collective scale. But anyway, so when we talk about Easter, and when it is celebrated, has to do with the spring equinox, and the bunny has to do with fertility. Exactly. So when we were growing up, you had an Easter bunny, you have Easter egg hunts. Churches have Easter egg hunts. Somebody dressed up as an Easter bunny, which is fine. I'm not knocking that. I'm just giving the reality of it, that it has nothing absolutely to do with the ascension and the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Easter is synonymous of fertility, birth, coming out of winter season, the spring equinox, when the flowers begin to blossom, when the grass begins to grow, when the pollen begins to fill the air, and because it symbolizes that we're coming out of a time of winter barrenness. Now, can you make the connection? A time when nature seemed to be pretty much dead, a time when nothing was happening. Does that make sense? Now, how they kind of connected it, because they used the correlation of when Jesus was dead, Jesus was buried. People call it Silent Saturday, in between Friday and Sunday. But resurrection, Easter, the spring equinox, equals when things come alive, the resurrection, and the grass begins to grow and the flowers begin to bloom. But in short, why I think it happened is called bait and switch. It's to pull them closer together so that eventually what happened will happen. We exchange one for another and begin to slowly, justifiably lead us into embracing a degree of paganism. Now, I must travel back. Like this, subscribe, share. If you're just joining us, I want to see your comments. I want you to also share this with somebody. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, to bring a little clarity, I've got to travel back in time, right? Into paganism and dive a little bit into Catholicism. See, here's what I said even on my Friday podcast, that most of the holidays that we celebrate in this country and the characters that represent the holidays, like Santa Claus to many represents Christmas, the bunny represents Easter. Most of the holidays and the characters that represent those holidays, unknowingly to most, but knowingly to many, knowingly or unknowingly, mythical gods or goddesses, or celebrated around pagan god worship. Most of the holidays in this country are celebrated around gods or mythical gods or goddesses, or around pagan holidays and pagan worship. Example, St. Patrick's Day. And I'm not going to go into depth. You can study this for yourself. I'm leading up to a bigger point. St. Patrick's Day, Valentine's Day. We done made that a day of love. Saint Valentine, who was the god of relationships. Even Christmas, Saint Nicholas. See, all of these, if you notice, all of these holidays have some kind of mystical gods or goddesses involved in them because they are celebrated around paganism. And I mean, I'm not saying don't celebrate your holidays. I'm saying know what you're doing. See, that's always been my thing. It's not don't do it. At least if you're going to do it or do a thing, don't do a thing ignorantly. Do a thing with knowledge and with understanding. So as not to go deep, because I want to keep this plain, simple, and not too long. I believe this strategically has been done for two reasons. One, especially with what we call resurrection, is to turn the attention away from the power that resides in the real Christ. See, if I'm into clothes, if I'm into bunnies, if I'm into eggs, if I'm into all of these high hymns and all of that, which is fine, then I'm less attuned to the power of the resurrection. And so I believe that's one of the reasons this was done, to bring us out of the power of the resurrection. And then number two, I believe this was strategically done to cause us to subtly embrace, as I said, paganism. Because when we put the button, and hey, listen, I know on tomorrow there will be a Easter egg hunt at the White House. I'm not saying if you got tickets, people go. I mean, it's fine. All I'm saying is know what you're doing. My job is to put the info out there to make you aware so that you can make the best decision possible. Not to tell you what to do or what not to do. That's not my job. I don't lead like that, right? So all I'm saying is, so when we're looking at the eggs, fertility, the bunny, fertility, worshiping the god of Istos, which I'll get to in a minute, it takes us away. People come into church once a year. I mean, it used to amaze me that, people that you never see before, and I pastored, so I was a part of it. You blow it up and people come, you spend money for people, you buy auditoriums, rent equipment, all the special events for people you're going to see one time a year, right? To celebrate how we dress. Now we're dressing down. All the theatrics, right? But it takes away from the real power that resides in the resurrection. And it causes us, especially Easter bunnies and Easter plays, to embrace a level of paganism. And I believe personally that's a part of what it was designed to do. Now, this is what has happened to the day we call resurrection. There was a mass Easter takeover attempt. Yeah, I'm going to say it like that. Because come on, our grandparents and our parents, for the most part, never called it. We started calling it resurrection in our generation, right? In my generation and above and younger. But before, there was no resurrection. It was Easter Sunday, going to church Easter. Now, what was the paradigm of that? You dress up. I mean, we didn't dress down coming up. You got a new suit. I never forget. Easter, every Easter, I got a new suit. There were Easter lilies. There were flowers. The altar looked so beautiful, so beautiful. I mean, the choirs, all the combined choirs sang that Sunday. I mean, it was Gothic, right? Then the Saturday before, like yesterday, we would be at church with Easter egg hunts and Easter plays and Easter luncheons. Everything was Easter, this Easter, that Easter, not focusing on the power of the resurrection. That's all I'm saying. And those things were fun. We participated. We encourage people to participate. But when you know better, you do better. So there was a Easter, I believe it was by design, takeover. Because one, I want you to get this, has absolutely nothing, NOTHING, to do with the other, OTHER. Nothing. One is spiritual, the other one is pagan. The West and the East never meet again. That's how different they are, right? Okay, you follow me so far? Pagan is Easter, also known as Austria, OSTARA, and it is celebrated on the spring equinox, which we know begins March 21st. And what it does is it marks the beginning of spring, and it is associated, you ready, with the god Istra, which is Easter, EOSTRE, the goddess Estra, which represented fertility, which represented new life. So when we say it's Easter, we're talking about a goddess. I told you, like, share, subscribe. Resurrection realities and resurrection fallacies. Now, who is this goddess? Let's go deep. Don't go nowhere now. Brunch. You got a few minutes before brunch, or you just coming home for brunch, or before dinner, Easter dinner, or you going back to Easter service. You got a few minutes. I just want to share this with you. Who is this goddess? Easter, and I'm gonna spell it for you. You do your homework. You know, be like the Bereans. Check me out. Well, you could check me out. Check me out. Though we don't check out stuff much, but I notice if we like what we hear, we don't check it out. If we disagree with what we hear, we go check it out. Interesting. Now, Istros was also known as OSTARA or Estra, EASTR, a lot of names for one goddess, is the goddess associated with spring and the dawn. That's why her name is etymologically linked to the word for east. Now, come on, I'm putting it together, symbolizing the direction from which the sun, and I talked about that on Friday. We go to church, most people go to church on Sunday, but her name etymologically is linked to the word for east. Notice the word Easter, EAST, symbolizing the direction from which the sun rises, heralding the arrival of light. Sound like the resurrection? See how they made the correlation? The arising of light and the end of dark, or the end of death, or the end of the cold winter, silent Saturday. She is believed to be the namesake of the Christian holiday for Easter. That's why I told you, when you say Easter, what you're saying is it's a day to worship a pagan goddess, or the pagan goddess of light, the pagan goddess of who worships the sun rising in the east, coming out of the cold, the grave, the dark, the grave, into the light, the resurrection. See how they made it? See how they crossed it? See how they connected it? But see how we fell for it? We ain't falling no more. Like, subscribe, share, follow. Now, for this reason is one of the reasons that the timing of Jesus' resurrection, or Easter, and I don't know if you ever wondered this, is always celebrated a different time. This year's late. Sometime it can be early as the first week or the second week in March. It can be as late as it is now, the third week in April. It can have a 6-week, now come on, most of the time on Christmas, we know the last week of Christmas, the last week of December, or depending, the third week, late in the third week or the fourth week, is going to be Christmas. So you got, a 10-day span. We know Thanksgiving every year is going to be the third, usually the third or the fourth, but a week span difference. But with Easter, it can be 6 weeks difference, because Easter, or the resurrection, is celebrated at different times because it's based around the cycle of the sun. It's not based on history. It's not based on when Jesus really rose. It's based on, come on, today is based on the sun. I know, like this, share this. It's based on the sun. The equinox, when there is an equal balance between darkness and daylight. And so that's when we celebrate. So next year, I don't know when it is, it may be mid-March. Here it is, almost May. It's the 20th. So we have another 10 days of this month? Some years is second week of around my birthday. It depends, because it's based around the sun, because Easter is the goddess of fertility who worshiped the sun because it rises in the east, and she celebrated the light that the sun brought. Now, to further, can you handle some more? Can you like this, share this? Can you really handle some more? Okay. And this is the way that I make my podcast. This is the way, if you've not checked out the Voiceover Now podcast every Friday at 6 p.m., you need to do so, because I keep it real. Straight, no chaser, even on a Resurrection Sunday. Straight, no chaser. Now, to further push the resurrection, fallacies. Okay? There's some realities, but the fallacies. The church has created false ceremonial narratives that take away from the reality of the resurrection. See, the resurrection of Jesus, the revelation of it is so powerful that Paul said that I may know him in the power of his resurrection. The power of his resurrection is where the power lies. The power of the resurrection is not going to church celebrating Easter. The power of the resurrection is a revelation that I may know, genoskos, be intimately acquainted with. That has nothing to do with eggs, dress, lilies. I mean, all those things can be nice. But I'm just saying how the attempt has been to take away our emphasis and make it a grand event. And I'm going to get to that in a minute. A grand event. When Paul says the whole power is having a revelation of his resurrection. So we've created a lot of ceremonies. We've created a lot of events. We've created a lot of, I won't say that word, but we've created a lot of ceremonies that take away from the reality of the resurrection for thinking people. The reality is Jesus Christ. Now, let me give you reality that we've created a fallacy around. Jesus Christ was crucified on the cross, right? Yes. But I submit to you, he didn't die on the cross. Don't go nowhere. Stay. Jesus Christ was crucified on the cross, but he did not die on the cross. I know that goes against every song, that goes against every belief, but as long as it doesn't go against Scripture. Jesus Christ was crucified. Yes, he was on the cross, but he did not die on the cross, which is not holy in itself, but it is a Roman instrument of crucifixion. Now, the reason I say this, because I've been places where when it comes to, after Lent, I think, they put maroon or something, their church has a cross. And we deify the cross, you know. Now, I'm not undeifying it. Just hold up. Let me get to it. I know I hit your religious cow, but let me get to it. So, we love symbols. We love sigils. I'm going to take you somewhere. And the cross is one of the sigils that we wear, right? It means holy. It means deity. It means, Mashata, the cross. But I want to submit to you, in the natural essence of the piece of wood that Jesus was crucified on, there is nothing holy about that wood that he was crucified on, no more than a death chamber is holy, or no more than an electric chair is holy. Now you say, come here, don't go nowhere. See, the cross was the Roman method of crucifixion. I could see if Jesus were the only one who was crucified on the cross. But everyone who was considered a criminal in Roman history were crucified on a cross. The cross was a Roman instrument of crucifixion. And the natural cross that hangs around Jesus' neck, that hangs around people's neck rather, is no more holier than if you had the picture of a gas chamber or the picture of an electric chair. And let me ask you this. Would you wear an electric chair? You said no. Of course. Why? Because you know that's an instrument of crucifixion. You know that's the instrument that the United States uses to crucify or to kill those who they deem have committed crimes. But we haven't been taught that. We thought that Jesus was the only one on the cross, so we deified the cross. No, absolutely not. I'm not referring to the significance of the cross, which is what? The significance of the cross is not the wood. The significance of the cross is not the instrument that Jesus was crucified on, or that hangs in your church, that you put a scarlet piece of cloth up beginning Lent, and then after resurrection you put a white piece of cloth up on foolery. No, ceremonialism. The significance of the cross is self-surrender, self-discipline, and self-denial. If we put work into self-surrender, self-discipline, and self-denial as much as we put in the ceremonialism, then we would really experience the power of his resurrection. All right, stay with me. Hang with me. We had an audio glitch, but we back. That's what happens in real time. But I'm going to finish. I'm more determined to finish it. So I'm not referring to the significance of the cross. The significance. I embrace the significance. But what I don't embrace is the fallacies, the ceremonialism. The reality is there is power in the significance of self-surrender, self-discipline, and self-denial. Those are the ways he said, I understand the power. I tap into the power of his resurrection. But ceremonialism, changing the cloths on the cross, wearing white on this day, doing this sunrise. Because I'm about to tell you, sunrise ain't sunrise when you look at the Jewish count. But anyway, let me hold up. Like, share, subscribe, follow. So I'm talking about there's no power. There's no power around what we hang around our necks. I didn't say don't hang it around your necks. Understand? When you're a bishop or you're an apostle, you hang it around your neck and put it in your pocket because the cross is close to your heart. I get it. I've been ordained. I've been through all of that, right? We know that. But what I'm saying is the reality of it is it has no power connected to the resurrection. None whatsoever. Question: would you wear an electric chair around your neck? No. Amen. Case closed. Hundreds of people were put to death on the cross. So the wooden instrument in and of itself cannot be sacred. Now that's a fallacy. I know I'm going to get pushed back on that. My email, thevoiceovertheglobe@gmail.com. thevoiceovertheglobe@gmail.com. Back to my point. Yes, Jesus was crucified. I didn't forget that. On a cross. But he died, which means he surrendered. Remember, he said, don't nobody take my life. If he died on the cross, that means the Romans took his life. He says, but I lay my life down. When did he lay his life down? When did he die? When did he what? Surrender in the garden. That's why I'm not playing with words or semantics. He was crucified on the cross, but he died in Gethsemane. Now, I'm not going to make this a whole Bible study because it's not a Bible study. This is a podcast. But for clarity, I am going to read a passage of scripture out of the book, the Holy Writ of Mark, chapter number 14, verses 32. They went to a place called Gethsemane, the press. And Jesus said to his disciples, sit here while I pray. He was agonizing. He took Peter, James, and John with him and began, watch this, to be deeply distressed and troubled. You would too if you knew you had to die and you was going to go through that much pain. Now watch what he says in 34. I'm going to tell you when he died. My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. My soul, in the garden, my soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Not on the cross. In the garden, my soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. He said to them, stay here and keep watch. Stay here and keep watch. Going a little further, he fell to the ground and prayed that if it be possible, the hour may pass from him. He said, please, please, if there's another way you can redeem me, please. Abba, Father, he said, everything is possible for you. Take this cup from me. Yet, watch the death, not what I will, but what you will. Bam. Then he returned to his disciples, found them sleeping, and said, are you asleep? Couldn't you not watch for me 1 hour? Watch and pray so you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. Once more, he went away and prayed the same thing. When he came back, he was gone by that time. Watch what his response was. At this point, he says, it don't even matter. I surrendered. I submitted. I'm good as dead. Let's roll out. Watch this. I summarized it. Once more, he went away and prayed the same thing. When he came back, he found them sleeping because their eyes were heavy. They did not know what to say to him. Returning the third time, he said, are you still sleeping and resting? Enough. The hour has come. Look, the Son of Man is delivered into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us go. Here comes my betrayer. He says, they won't take my life, they'll take my body, but I'll lay down my life and all they'll get is my body. At that point, Jesus was spiritually dead. And he died when you go back up, when he says, take this cup from me. He says, my soul is troubled and distressed and overwhelmed to the point of death. See, so he died, and we miss Gethsemane. We focus in on all the action. But Gethsemane was a sobering moment. Gethsemane was a sobering moment. The crucifixion was a blood sacrifice. The crucifixion was a blood. Why? Because before it was lambs, it was goats, it was God required blood. God required blood. Why? The life of the flesh is in blood. I need something living as a sacrifice. The crucifixion was a blood sacrifice for sins. So if we say Jesus died, no, if you say Jesus died on Friday, and the crucifixion is a eerie, gory, bloody sacrifice, how's it good? You say, well, it's good because he wrote. No. How is the event in and of itself? I'm not talking about the results. How is the event? I mean, that's like going to a human sacrifice and saying, well, they're going to get promoted in the music world, but I tell you what, it's Good Friday when they sacrifice. No. The ends don't justify the means like that. So how's it good? Where does it call? First of all, if it was a Friday, and I gotta get to that. Good. The crucifixion was a blood sacrifice. Isaiah said we didn't even recognize him when he was hanging on the cross. He said, I didn't even know who that was. They had marred and beat and scarred him so bad. Who is that? And we call that good? Well, yeah, it was good because his sin saved. I'm not talking about the ends justifying the means. I'm talking about the event. But you call it good. The point is to get us caught up in rituals and forget the power of the blood. The blood on the cross was the main character on Good Friday. The blood on the cross. But yet we have services, and I'm guilty, I had them before, celebrating all the events that happened around the cross, like the events like the 7 last sayings or the 7 last words or what Jesus was saying. And what's interesting, if you go by what Jesus said, 6 of those words were to his Father. So why are we in the conversation? And the one was where he says, woman, behold thy son. But Father, forgive them. I thirst. Into thy hands I commend my spirit. All of those were a conversation he was having with his Father. So why we got to peep in on that and make a whole ceremony around that when understanding that the event when Jesus was on the cross was the fact that the blood was the character, not the conversations at the foot of the cross. It was the blood that was on the cross. It was the blood that was running down Golgotha's hill. It was the blood stains on his brow. That's the main character of what we call, what you call Good Friday. Not all the conversation, all the chatter. It's like somebody trying to memorialize a loved one. But when you get to the memorial, instead of talking about the work that the loved one has done and how they affected you, you're talking about all the conversations that took place at their dying bed. What? And then what Jesus was saying wasn't to us. It was his Father's conversation. But again, another attempt to ceremonialize, to take away the spiritual significance of one of the most powerful events that have ever occurred in the world. Like this, share this, subscribe, follow. The point is to get us caught up in rituals and forget the power of the resurrection. Another fallacy. I'm almost finished now. I know you can't take, but so, and I'm feeling, even through technology where you at, I'm putting a lot. Look at the replay. Look at the replay. Go check it out. I've been studying this for years. A lot of this I've been knowing for years. I've just been released to release it. Another fallacy. Okay, so we have Good Friday. And I'm saying all these in quotations. I'm talking your language. Good Friday, Silent Saturday, and Easter Sunday. No, Holy Thursday, when he has the Passover. Good Friday, when he's crucified. Silent Saturday, when he lays in the ground. You don't hear nothing. Then Sunday, he rises. So they put him in the ground usually about 3 on Friday. By the time they finish preaching, about 3. So 3 on Saturday is 1 day, p.m. 3 on Sunday is 2 days. Where'd the other day go? Now, what am I talking about? The math ain't mathing. Do you remember when Jesus was asked, how long would the Son of Man be in the earth, which was his self? And he responded, as Jonah, this was his response, he was very clear, was in the belly of the whale 3 days and 3 nights. So shall the Son of Man be. Now, 3 days and 3 nights. So I got a question. I got questions. I got questions. How do we get 3 days and 3 nights over the weekend? So now, I'm not telling you what to think. I'm just pointing these in. So either one or two things. Either he was not crucified on a Friday, or God forbid, he did not rise on a Sunday. Oh Lord. Oh Lord. Or both. Because the math ain't mathing. He said it. History didn't say it. He said, as Jonah was in the belly of the whale 3 days and 3 nights, not 2 nights in a day, because that's what a weekend would be, 2 nights in a day. Friday, 3 p.m. or 12 noon, whatever you want to make it, till Saturday, that's 1 day, 12 noon. Then we got him rising early Sunday, that's a day and a half. We're still missing a day and a half, if that's true. So something ain't mathing. Share this, like this, subscribe. Either Jesus was not crucified on Friday, which I don't think he was, or did not rise on Sunday. Maybe, or both. Now, let me read you another passage of scripture. Then I'm gonna close this. I'm not really into as deep as I wanted to go, but I feel you. And I'm gonna let you continue to enjoy your Easter and your resurrection. St. John chapter number 20, verse 1 will help us out a little bit on this. Because the reason I'm saying this, as a child, I used to sit there and calculate it, but you don't dare ask your parents these questions when you're growing up. And I'm sure that people sitting there now who are much intelligent than we were as children say, wait a minute, I don't get it. Is this real or not? Because if it's real, I should be able to calculate 3 days and 3 nights, and I'm only calculating a day and a half and 2 nights. What's up? Where's the rest? All right, let's see if we can get some help for this before I go. Early on the first day of the week, St. John chapter 20, verse 1. While it was still dark, that's key. While it was still dark, Mary Magdalene went to the tomb and saw that the tomb had been removed from the entrance, would mean Jesus had risen while it was still dark. Now, this is key. Traditionally, the Jewish day begins with darkness after the sunset. So their day begins at, if I'm not mistaken, at 6 p.m. and it ends at 6 p.m. So 6 a.m. to the Jewish calendar is like our 12 noon, the middle of the day, right? Or the 3 o'clock, whatever. All right, let's work this out. So a great while before day, that's when she went. We don't know the gap between the time Jesus rose and the time she went. But we knew when she got there a great while before day, because that's what St. John 20 verse 1 says. Early on the first day of the week. Now don't let that trip you out. The first day, that's how we made it Sunday, right? But was Sunday really the first day of the week? Okay. While it was still dark, Mary went to the tomb and saw that the tomb had been removed. The stone had been removed from the entrance. So a great while before day would make it sometime Saturday that Jesus rose, because if the day starts at 6 p.m. and she went a great while, and it is Sunday, the day hadn't started yet. It was a great while before day. I know you're thinking great while before the sun came up. That's not what it says. It says a great while before the day. So if Sunday, and we want to hold to that, is truly the first day of the week, and she went a great while before day, their day starts at 6 p.m. That means she went before 6 p.m. on Sunday, which means she was still in Saturday. And if she was still in Saturday, he couldn't have died Friday. Now, I've always subscribed, and I don't have time to go into this. Maybe I'll do a part 2 on my podcast, that it was a Wednesday. And I laid out I've taught that before. But of course, that would mess up the weekend. Now, if it was a Wednesday, I could get 3 days: Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, almost Sunday. Because it didn't say it was day, a new day. It was a great while before the new day. That's why we do sunrise services, because we think this says it was a great while before sunlight day. No, it was a great while before a new day, which means she was still in Saturday, which means Jesus had risen by the time she got there. So sometimes Saturday, if we want to hold true to this, that Sunday's the first day of the week, Jesus rose Saturday sometime, which means he couldn't have died or been crucified on Friday. Which always takes me back to what I've taught for years, that perhaps he was crucified on a Wednesday, especially when I go in and look at the times that the feast of the Passover was celebrated, because you have to connect his death with the feast of the Passover, which I'm not sure that's going to be a Friday. I'm going to finish here. Like, share, subscribe. Don't be surprised if I do a pop-up special, part 2, on my podcast this week, The Voiceover Now. The purpose of this session is to encourage us, I want to end with that, to refrain from celebrating around fallacies, around ceremonials that mean nothing, that deny us the real power of Jesus. Paul says that I may know him, the power of his resurrection, and the fellowship of his suffering. The reality is this: if we don't get nothing else out of this, I think we can all agree: Jesus has risen and lives in you. Now, what will you do with that reality? That Jesus is risen and he lives in you. What will I do with that? That if there's not but one reality we can agree on, Jesus is risen, lives in us, Christ in us, the hope of glory. What will we do with that reality? Thank you so much for your time, your patience. We apologize for the glitch. Like, share, subscribe, and follow. Peace. God bless. Don't forget www.wakeupglobalnetworks.com.
Thank you for being a part of The Voiceover. Please follow us on all of our social media platforms to stay connected to our upcoming shows and guests. Instagram at The Voiceover Radio. Twitter at DPropheticI. That's the letter D, prophetic, EYE. If this show has enriched you in any way, please share The Voiceover among your circle. Until next time, keep allowing your voice to be heard.